Back in 1990, very significant things happened in Bulgaria. Up until 1990, Bulgaria had been ruled iron-fistedly by the Communist Party. But in 1990, things were changing all around the world, and more specifically changing for Russia and Eastern Europe. Having seen revolutionary changes taking place throughout Eastern Europe, the Communist Party in Bulgaria, not wanting to face a revolution against themselves, voluntarily stepped from power, and Bulgaria became a democracy. In February of 1990, an announcement was made by the Bulgarian government that the Državna Sigurnost, as of that date, was out of business. There would be no more Državna Sigurnost as of that date. But did the Državna Sigurnost go out of business? Well, again, it's been long believed, rumored, and somewhat documented by other intelligence agencies around the world that the Državna Sigurnost merely went underground. Of course, they stopped going to their headquarters building. They stopped carrying credentials that said they were state security, Državna Sigurnost, but they didn't vanish away. The Prime Minister of Bulgaria made an interesting statement. You see, when the Državna Sigurnost was disbanded officially, all of their files were seized and locked away. No one has seen them since, until recently. Because recently the Bulgarian government passed a law in Parliament that said those files were to be opened, and that every name of every Državna Sigurnost agent, manager, supervisor, and even informants and collaborators, every name was going to be posted on the internet so that the people of Bulgaria could see who had been involved. The Državna Sigurnost is viewed by the majority of people in Bulgaria as having been agents of oppression, torture, death, fear, and they don't like them. So they were going to post all of these names, and in fact have begun to do so. They were also going to make them available on DVD. Now, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria made an interesting statement just a few weeks before Dr. Filipov made his statement to the press and then became inaccessible. He said that he was expecting a report in early 2010 that detailed who in the foreign ministry had been affiliated with Državna Sigurnost, and that he expected about 90% of the foreign ministry would be on that list. Quite an interesting statement, considering that many intelligence agencies around the world believed Državna Sigurnost had merely, if you will, changed uniforms, gone underground. On November the 23rd, 2009, that's the date Dr. Lachezar Filipov made his statement to the press that extraterrestrials are real, they are here living among us, we don't even recognize them, we're in constant communications with them, and as that very first news report stated, that some of these alien species had shown up at a media presentation in which they had answered over 30 questions put to them by the Bulgarian Academy of Science personnel. Now that statement disappeared almost immediately. And almost immediately, Dr. Filipov became inaccessible. That was November the 23rd. Within 24 hours, Dr. Filipov was inaccessible. Within 24 hours, that statement was not in any further articles about Dr. Filipov. On November the 27th, 4 days later, the foreign minister, now remember what the prime minister said about the foreign ministry being full of državna sigurnost. 4 days after Filipov made his statement, the foreign minister resigned. And the reason? It had been revealed that his name was in fact on the list as a državna sigurnost agent who had worked for them up through 1991. Now, what's interesting about that is here you have records of the državna sigurnost who were put out of business in 1990, allegedly, showing that this foreign minister had been associated with them up through 1991, a year later. So we have documented proof that državna sigurnost did in fact continue to exist, at least for that 1 year. And what is there to make us believe they went out of business then? The državna sigurnost merely changed uniforms. They just went underground. And they have been, according to many of the intelligence agencies around the world, the državna sigurnost have been working for key members of parliament and key high-ranking industrial moguls. Among those high-ranking business moguls are the heads of, I think, every major media operation in Bulgaria. Now, I could be wrong about that. I could have missed one major media operation out there that isn't headed by someone who was with državna sigurnost. But major media in Bulgaria is headed by državna sigurnost people. And they are, of course, if državna sigurnost merely went underground, they are going to do the bidding of DS. They are going to do what they are told to do. So even though the Sofia Echo, which is owned by a media concern headed by a državna sigurnost person, a person who was affiliated with them, they printed in the Sofia Echo that first report. That first report said that there had been a media event, a media presentation, at which several of the alien species were present and answered over 30 questions put to them by Bulgarian Academy of Science personnel. Within 24 hours, that was no longer in the media, and what was in the media was Filipov saying that extraterrestrials are among us, we don't even recognize them, and then reportage that he's merely looking at crop circles and trying to interpret the symbols. So there's been a sea change here in the media at the same time that Filipov becomes inaccessible. And the next time Filipov is accessible, we have this news crew from Croatia coming in, trying to do an interview, and going away saying he was intoxicated. We couldn't actually conduct an interview. But in that interview that they could not conduct, they asked a question. They said, well, tell us about the extraterrestrials. Are they here, and are you meeting with them?